Hey, hi, how are you? As usual, give me just a moment, wrap up a little prep here, and let people join us. So just one sec, and then we'll roll. I tell you, I am loving, by the way, absolutely loving streaming. I love connecting with you. I love seeing who's joining online. I do wish it was even more interactive, though. Let me see real quick if I can find that stream. See if anyone is joining us. Hold on. All right, looks like we have a few people starting to join. Hey, how are you? Good to see you. I see the numbers. I don't see the names. There they are. Laura Dean, how are you? Great to see you. Ahoy. All right, listen, how are you? Are you having a good day? I hope you are. Mine is off to a great start. When I wake up and feel healthy, have some caffeine, and start writing, that's a good day. I spent 3 hours writing this morning before jumping on to this little conversation with you. I have a couple essays in the hamper today. Excited. One of them I think is going to be posted as a blog. You'll see it shortly. The other is going to be posted as a part of a newsletter that I create. Hey, Brian, what's up, brother? Marco, good to see you, sir. Now, listen, if you want to read the second one in the newsletter, I have good news. It's free and it's very, very practical. Thousands and thousands of people love this. And it goes out not on an exact schedule, usually once a month, and has a blog type essay, as well as some tips and tricks and some announcements about things I'm up to that usually you're the first to hear if you're on the newsletter. It is a fun tribe of people who care about the issues that you and I regularly talk about. So when you're done today or right now, while you're listening to me rant and rave, jump over to www.drdoit.com and sign up for the newsletter. That would make me very happy. Now, some of you might notice something different about me. Veer, what's up, buddy? Mohammed, how are you? Suzanne, thanks for being here from Barcelona. Listen, you might notice I'm looking a little shaggy. Listen, I've taken some liberties lately as we stream more content, and I think about what it means to do what I do. I talk about authenticity. I talk about authenticity and related notions like vulnerability. Today, in fact, in just a moment, we'll talk about imposter syndrome. Fascinating, related idea that affects so many of us. Well, I'm not being an imposter today. Listen carefully. I'm casual to a fault, and sometimes that means that you nice people get to see the gray. All right. That's about as honest as I can say it. I've been very busy, and as I said, I have been streaming a ton. Yesterday, I spent time online. You'll see this hit my feed probably in a week or so. I'm not sure. I spent some time with a really amazing lady named Cheryl Bassett, who has a cool show named Kitchen Table Conversations. And she had me on to talk about this, the 10 Delusions. Now, if you haven't seen this, I encourage you to check it out. You can find it at Amazon. I was prompted not just by her show yesterday, where we talked about the book, but also by a review that showed up on Amazon the other day. And the review was just so nice by a person who'd unfortunately been through a difficult divorce, wish they had this resource earlier. And I got to tell you, it just touches me in a way that's hard to explain when I find out that I take some science I'm aware of, some experiences I've been through, some learning and experience from other people, and I put it together and create something that actually helps someone get through the day a little more productive. That makes me terribly, terribly happy. Philippe, hi. Adil, Anna, how are you in Lisbon? So nice, so nice. Tom, what's happening? Amazing to see all of you here. I wish I could see your faces as much as you can see mine. Okay, for the next few minutes, we're going to talk about something that for some of you, I know is a big need. You really want to address this in your life. For others of you, listen, it might be surprising to you, but it's going to be as equally interesting, maybe revealing, if it's not something that you're as aware of. Now, I'm talking about imposter syndrome. For those who don't know what this is, I'm going to explain it talk about kind of where it comes from, and maybe most importantly, what you can do about it to keep that in check and be a productive reminder type of thing instead of a thing that hampers you and causes you problems. Also, of course, I want to hear your thoughts. It's great to see your comments piling up. I want to hear your questions. I'm going to do my best to answer them. If not right now, and in just a few minutes, we'll get to those. So please, I've got my awesome helper, Cheryl, as always, who's watching. So if you have questions that are related to this topic, just drop them and she'll catch some of those and feed them my way. So here we go. Let me just make a quick joke to make a point. Are you ready? Hi. My name's Dr. Do It. I'm a professional speaker. I'm paid gobs of money to stand on stage and pontificate, educate, and motivate. I love that job. I'm very good at that job. Here's what you don't know about that guy. It's a character. Maybe half of them is me. The other half is a character I've created that effectively serves as an educator for many, many people, maybe millions at this point. Now listen, here's what you don't know. What you don't know is that guy is just a normal person. That guy brings with him every single time he steps on stage or picks up a pen and tries to write or hits the keyboard. He brings with him insecurities, moments of just complete lack of confidence, and sometimes a belief that I don't deserve what I have, the platform that I have. Sometimes I even worry if people are going to figure out, when are they finally going to figure out that I'm full of hot air more than I'm full of good answers? Those are real thoughts, ladies and gentlemen, that go through my head. And here's the punchline. Are you ready? The punchline is that according to most research, 70+% of all of us, that's across socioeconomic levels, across genders, across IQs, etc., all experience moments, sometimes big, persistent, even crippling moments of feeling like that imposter. It's true. I went to college for 10 years, got 3 degrees, won all kinds of awards, blah, 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 could brag all day long, and still somehow I occasionally stand in front of people. I'm feeling good right this moment, by the way, I'm grateful to say, but not always. Sometimes I think, I'm not sure what to say. I sure hope they don't hear the tremor in my voice. You know, the weird kind of shaking and nerves in my thoughts. I hope they don't. But I love telling you that sometimes they exist, because as a purveyor of authenticity and advice, I have to tell you that is normal. That makes you normal. It really is important you let me say that again and you try to hear me. That makes you human and normal. The only question is whether or not you're ready just to grapple with that, look at it, laugh a little bit, embrace it, maybe even figure out how to use it, because that will make you more productive. What most people do when they have these types of thoughts, which are natural, is to deny them and hide them passionately. And our brain, as you well know, is so good at hiding things we think reflect an imperfection in us. Listen, I'm the Pied Piper of telling you those imperfections make you interesting. They will be prompts to help you bond with others. They will be catalysts that allow you to get better. Don't deny them, and certainly don't hide them. Don't lie about them. I love standing on top of the mountain, pontificating and writing and telling stories. It's what I'm here to do. I have no doubt about that. And when I sometimes have my confidence shaken, I'm not going to lie to you about it, because you know what? Just admitting that might be as instructional as any tidbit or tip I could ever offer. It's an interesting question, though, isn't it? Where does that come from? Hey, Luca. Yasser, what's happening? Abed, hey. So good to see you guys. Listen, I ask you, if it's common as I say it is, and all the research agrees, where does that come from? Sometimes it comes from just your genetics. Hey, we're all born with this thing called a personality, and my job is to remind you that personality is a platform, not a prison. Personality is a platform, not a prison. It's a thing from which you begin, a place where you stand and then grow given it, not in spite of it, but on top of it. That's what personality is. And some of us are wired to think certain ways, feel certain ways, speak certain ways, behave certain ways by personality. So sometimes that's the answer. It's not the most interesting answer because you can't really do anything about your personality. It also comes from a desire to be a perfectionist. Any perfectionists out there today? I know I've had my troubles battling perfectionism. I know I can do better. I know I can be the best. Watch me go. Listen, sometimes that comes from personality. Very often that's also a learned thing. There's a context around you, whether it came from schools, parents, who knows, and it helped push you to want to push more. And you then went too far and you became what we call a perfectionist. And perfectionists are fascinating people. I love to pick on them because I'm kind of still one of them, though I like to think I'm in recovery. The truth is, I do believe I'm in recovery. Perfectionist, let me give you an example. I'm a speaker. I do a lot of things, a lot of writing courses, what have you. One of the things is speaking. And when I'm on stage and I'm looking at an audience, doesn't matter if it's 50 or 5,000, I have an unbelievable ability to find the one or two people not into what I'm doing. There could be people laughing, crying, learning, writing notes, looking at me like, give it to me, man. And I'll find that one man, woman, just sitting there looking at me like, I don't get it, and I'm not sure I like it, and when will you be done? And it bugs me because I want to get them. I want to turn them. I want to help them understand the value the rest of us are really feeling. And that is not, I repeat, not productive. None of you are supposed to be striving in that manner. I'm trained myself pretty well to not strive to be that level of performer. Why? Because it doesn't exist. Perfection is an illusion that once in a blue moon is useful to think about, but generally speaking is kind of dangerous. What you care about are high standards, evolving into potentially even higher standards, and really moving your average, if you will. You think about a batter in baseball and how they play the game and the batting average they have, right? You're the same way as a performer. Perfection doesn't make sense. What you want to do is understand that average and how, and there's many ways to answer this question, you might move it forward. You might get better. Progress, not perfection. That's the mantra I often use to remind myself, and I bet you can find it useful too. Progress, not perfection. Sometimes we have that imposter syndrome because we're overcome with that desire to be perfect. Or here's a more general take on that. Many of you, like me, are some form of expert. Now, I got to tell you, I tell my children about this all the time. For those who follow me, you know I have two boys, Paxton and Parker. Parker just turned 13. Paxton is about to turn 17. And actually, all jokes aside, they're quite amazing. They're quite amazing. And I often tell them, you know what? I'm not going to tell you what to do in your career. And I say to you, very honestly, I think too many parents overmanage their kids' education and careers. And it's usually driven by an unhealthy focus on the parental expectations, not the child's interests, needs, and their own expectations. I believe that pretty strongly. And so I don't do that to them. What I do actually say to them is, you know, I'm an expert. I'm lucky to craft a profession, a career, a vocation. I do something that I enjoy. I do something where I have a depth of expertise, an ability that others don't have, and I get to use it to have to help people, not just to make a living, but, and this is killing me, to really kind of have some purpose to help people see more possibilities, become a better version of themselves. Why? Because I'm an expert. My expertise, number one, is communicating. I am definitely an expert communicator, but then in terms of content expertise, I'm a world-class leadership person, careers person, relationship person. That's the ball of wax that I talk about all the time, and I have spent 15 years of dedicated study and now 25 plus years as a professional, really increasing that through interactions with you, through writing, thinking, and research. And a few rants just like this as well. I tell them, you want to be an expert. Something weird, however, listen, happens to us. You know, when we become experts, we think I got to know it all. And that's why I think one of the honest manifestations of that whole imposter syndrome is that you want to make sure people don't think that about you and discover the truth about your complete imperfection or the fact that you're only here by luck. That's a topic I'm going to return to, luck, in just a minute. And so I'll try and be a know-it-all and act like I have answers when sometimes I don't. And well, if you've met the know-it-alls that I've met, then you know what I know. It's not a wise course of action. Trying to act like you know something when you don't is too often quickly revealed as really just a person striving to fill air because they don't want to look like they don't know, as opposed to looking like a genuine expert, because they're not. Don't do that. Now, luck is the missing part of this equation we haven't talked about. Impostor syndrome many times is a thing where I feel I don't deserve to be here, not just because I'm not good enough, but because I'm here by luck. So let's talk about luck for just a moment as a part of your life, your career trajectory. Hey, John, it's good to see you. Ken, how are you, man? So nice to see these names. All right. Lauren says she needs us today, so I'm keeping on this just for you, Lauren. Here we go. Listen, luck is real. Serendipity, it happens. The odds of things, well, they're things. They're real. Sometimes you just happen into situations. You didn't earn them. You didn't deserve them. You didn't ask for it, whether it's good or bad. It just happens. That's true. I struggled with this because we're talking about imposter syndrome. I'm going to be blunt with you in a way you're not used to seeing most experts. Here we go. One of the things I am grateful to say is that I'm one of the most watched people around planet Earth in professional circles online, thanks to the ridiculously amazing people at LinkedIn who created the world's most interesting learning platform called LinkedIn Learning, where I'm pretty much the top business author globally talking about these types of issues. There's so many other amazing authors there. You really should check them out if you haven't had the opportunity, but I'm just one voice. Having said that, that voice has gotten pretty loud thanks to their crazy platform. And as I watch the numbers come in, I'm talking about not just the lovely royalties they're kind enough to pay authors. I'm talking about the views, the comments, the notes that I receive every day. I'm talking about every single day, a pile of notes from around the world for people having questions, comments, and thank yous for the work I've created on that platform. It's amazing to me. And more than once in the first few years that this started to happen, and I think I'm in maybe year 8 now, I remember thinking, why me? Now, I know I'm a good communicator. I can speak whether live or into a camera very, very well compared to most people. I know that. I admit that. I'm not going to give you some false modesty, okay? But in terms of straight expertise, I had this recurring thought, man, why me? I know they could find people as good as me. I know they could find people better than me. How did I get this job that I love and can't believe they pay me for? How did I get it? Man, am I lucky. Just good fortune, right? I get stuck on that once in a while. Not nearly as common anymore as it was when I first started with them, because I've learned to internalize the success in a reasonable fashion. Listen carefully. We all have choices that we make about how to attribute outcomes that happen to us, right? Do we make internal attributions? Do we make external attributions? Let me give you an example. You, or in my case, I become a top author globally thanks to LinkedIn Learning. Great. Is that because I'm great in so many ways I could articulate, or because their platform's amazing and I kind of just rode the wave that they created? You know, I just rode that wave. Is that the better explanation? Am I just lucky to ride that wave? How about you? Think about you back when you were a student. Maybe some of you still are. You get an A on an exam. Now, is that because you're so smart and you prepared so well? Or is the professor just easy? Or does the professor just like you? That's an internal versus an external attribution. We do have a personality component to that in terms of which one we're more wired to lean towards. But the truth is, you know, you can make that choice no matter what. If you become conscious and self-aware, more and more conscious, more and more self-aware, you can make that choice. And what I want you to do to battle imposter syndrome is to remember that your goal is to make the choice to make a reasonable, not a fully overindulgent, I'm great, everything is about me and I've created everything. No, a reasonable, measured, internal attribution. Own and enjoy those accomplishments, because it's actually kind of impossible to fully understand your contribution versus luck versus many other factors outside of you. And that's okay, because what you want is a sense of feeling, yep, got some stuff done. Yes, I like this. I enjoy this. I deserve this. I'm going to use this and do something even better. And that means you need a positive, measured, reasonable, internal attribution. I want you to make that, okay? There's no reason you should fear or deny imposter syndrome. Happens to all of us. Doesn't mean you're not awesome. It means that confidence sometimes waxes and wanes, and you need to then think about, here's the solution, and then I'm taking your answer. Here's the solution. You need to think about, you need to talk about, I think you need to write about those types of thoughts. Why are you feeling like an imposter on occasion, or more generally, why is confidence shaken on occasion? I need you to think about it. I need you to talk about it. I need you to write about it. That's my advice. It's not a perfect prescription. It's worked for me, and I've helped others use exactly the same thing. Just a few minutes every week thinking about that, reminding yourself you're not an imposter, then reminding yourself of the journey you've been on, the accomplishments you have, the credentials, etc., are real. Remember them. And that's when the confidence starts to creep back, number one. Number two, go find a person. You only need one or two, and you have to develop them to listen and to be candid. Candor, I love it, with you, about you, the good and the bad. But most importantly, you're looking for affirmations once in a while to help you remember those things that prove you are obviously a professional, not an imposter. Yes. And number three, write about it. This is a personal thing I used to do with a lot of students back in the day. We need to spend time in reflection, and a few things, whether it's with a keyboard or a pen, help us think deeply, process, and reflect, and maybe thus see new insights than actually writing about this issue that maybe is perplexing you, such as imposters syndrome. Spend just 5 or 10 minutes a week. I guarantee you the quality of your thoughts and what to do about them will move forward, which is great if you're done being a perfectionist, because then you can join me and remember that it's not about perfection. It's about progress. Progress, not perfection. That is this week's quick rant on imposter syndrome. Let me see if I have questions. Hey, Laura Dean, if you're out there and listening, by the way, I think I owe you. If you have a question, let's hear it. Otherwise, listen to this. I think this might be one of my favorite questions, and it's not even from this session. I'm looking back to last time. It's from Brian. It says, I found out the hard way. I wish, Brian, I could ask you what it is that you're actually thinking about. You found out the hard way. Some leaders don't like to be questioned. It's interesting because we're talking about imposter syndrome, right? Questions come from a place of curiosity, not attack, and yet many people feel like they're being attacked. That's precisely why individuals like to go ahead and not address, not talk about, not admit, not deal with things inside that hurt, such as imposter syndrome. Why does the average manager do that? It's not unrelated to the conversation we're talking about that pertains to individual growth and imposter syndrome. The typical manager, which is my number one favorite topic, the typical manager, what they do and why, how they can do it better. They often have thin skin because they're fearful of so many eyeballs looking at them, judging them, and they do not want, they just don't want others to question them in some way that makes them look imperfect, lacking in answers, lacking in ways to help the team move forward. Listen carefully. I'm gonna be very specific here. You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to project confidence and competence. That is for sure. But you're also supposed to let them see some of the humanity. It's not unrelated to the many talks, many things I've written about authenticity. Listen, they need to know that you know that sometimes you're not sure what to do. Sometimes you just feel uncertain. You see question marks instead of answers, and that you even doubt your own ability in a given situation. And let me be very specific, as I said I would. You're not supposed to rage on about that all the time, every day. That's a big no-no. That makes you strange, and no one's going to follow you. However, you cannot do what most managers do, which is to completely ignore that need, that feeling, that reality, and never use it, never address it. So what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to find 1, 2, maybe max 3 times a year in the right group, and the settings will change. You're talking to a colleague or two. Maybe it's the hallway, maybe it's a video call. You're talking to your team in one of those regularly scheduled meetings. You're talking with an impromptu group of colleagues who you haven't seen, but they're important to you, maybe at a social hour, at a conference, who knows? There are many professional contexts like this, and I want you to think about 1, 2, maybe 3 times per year, using that reality you otherwise you typical leader, feel like hiding or denying. I want you to use it. It's okay sometimes to tell them, I'm not sure how I got here sometimes. It's very obvious that Bob or Suzanne could run this team every bit as good as I could, but here I am, we have work to do. So now that I've admitted that, let's talk about how we can move forward. Now, there are a million versions of the flippant little funny comment that I just gave, but it's true. Sometimes it's, I don't know who to hire. I like to defer to my judgment most of the time, but we've got it down to 2 people. And you know what? You have to live with them as much as I do. I'm going to let you guys tell me, who is it? Who's the right person? I think you probably got a better grip on this than I do. That's a different response to the same situation, this time allowing collaboration to move into real ownership on the part of your team. Again, you can't do that all the time, but what I'm telling you is to mix it up and change up the ways that you occasionally deal with, instead of denying the reality of these bits of doubts, which sometimes grow and get so large, it feels like imposter syndrome. You wonder about yourself. That's okay. The beauty of it is, even when it's hard to find solutions that give you more clarity about yourself, which is a thing you can do over time with feedback and reflection, effort, counseling, etc. The truth is, just using that reality and letting it be known instead of unknown a little bit, a few times a year, makes people feel, this is such a fun word, you ready? More comfortable around you. Most people think it will make them more tense because, yeah, man, they're not going to know whether they should trust you or not once you admit you don't know everything. That is not true. It's just not true. That's only true when you do the honest, I'm imperfect, maybe even an imposter thing all the time, which almost no one ever does and no one should do. But when you just do it a few times per year to the right person, measured and in a reasonable manner, it makes them trust you more. It makes them feel more comfort with you. Why? Because it makes them feel more human too. And that's one of the most priceless gifts you can ever give someone. My friend Laura Dean says, what if your biggest fear is everything returning to normal? Laura Dean going to give me a question. I don't even know if I can answer that. There have been many people, Laura, as you know well, during this pandemic that have said some version of, you're all crazy. I don't want to go back to normal. I think normal was a problem, and we should talk about that and create a very different, a much more interesting, maybe I should say more even equitable, new normal. Well, if your biggest fear is going back to normal, the question is, how much risk are you personally willing to shoulder? Let me remind you, life is short and most fears are unfounded. That might sound dangerous, but I think it's more true than it's dangerous. How much risk are you willing to take to change your behaviors in an effort to change your situation? That might mean skill building, that might mean networking, that might mean being uncomfortable and learning how to say no to the right person. It might be learning how to feel awkwardly okay with saying yes to the right person. I don't know what it is in your situation, but there are thinking, feeling, conversational, and behavioral changes. I don't want you to feel overwhelmed by listening to that response. What I would love for you to do is to think about it and identify the 1 or 2 behaviors you might change, specific behaviors, and who the targets are and why. That if you were to do them, you think you have a shot at creating a different and maybe better new normal. Focus. Don't get lost in the possibilities and the malaise associated with your current situation. Indulge that, make a deadline, let that go, focus on the question I gave you, and specifically identify the 1 or 2 targets that maybe give you a behavioral path forward, should you be brave enough to try them, to create a new normal. Maybe that's oversimplifying things a little. I hope not. I hope it's a thinking prompt for you. Laura says, can you give us this pep talk every morning? Tell your boss about that. They'll call me, and then the answer becomes some version of yes. Thanks for the kindness. That's so sweet. Vibha, am I saying that wrong, sir? Madam, I'm so sorry. That's a cool name. Todd's a boring name. I'm going to ask your question just the same. There is major disruption coming. How do you handle this new normal? All disruptions All disruptions provide an opportunity to change parts of normal that you didn't like. This is an addendum to what I just said to Miss Laura. I mean, the age-old political maxim, never let an emergency go to waste. Well, it happens at work as well. As a manager, you look around your situation, there's a million variables that you face, and you very often want to change some of them, don't you? But you don't have the time, you don't have the opportunity, you're not sure you can explain it or that it's justified, etc., etc., etc. Then crisis happens. Crisis is difficult in a million ways. We could talk about that for another session. It's also an opportunity to do that which you've been avoiding or not felt empowered to do. For example, think about bench strength that is on your team. You have 10 players, their particular names and skills and whatever. They are a real entity, okay? Some of them you love, some of them you like, some of them you can't believe you hired. That's reality. I don't like to make you uncomfortable, but I certainly like candor. That's reality. The question is, what can you do about it? Within the confines of the system, what can you do about it? Now listen, crises and difficult times like this give you more permission than ever to question the assumptions you have about that system. Hey, I can't let go of Bob, even though Bob clearly is the talent piece I wish I could replace, because I can imagine it making the team better and making me less stressed and more sane and more productive overall. Great. I've always assumed I can't do that because you know what? There's no precedent for letting people go here. Fine. What kind of person do you want to be? What kind of professional do you want to be? Maybe it's time for you to start a new precedent. Listen, difficult choices that others won't always love can be made with honesty, can be made with explanations, and even compassion when someone doesn't like the outcome that you're dishing up. Fine. But your question when dealing with those individual answers is not, how can I best serve Bob? That's a compassionate place to start. Good for you, no matter what their performance problem might be. Your challenge, your responsibility is to think about maximizing that team. What's the right move for helping us long-term be sane, have morale, and kill it with productivity, and maybe even get that thing we all dream of, creativity, innovation, change? That's a great question. I think it starts inside you. I'll end today's rant by reminding you of one of my favorite maxims ever. All change begins with you. It's time to start being the change that you imagine. Gandhi and a few million others before me said that, and it's stuck with us for a reason, because before you fix the situation around you, the team, the policies, the bureaucracy, the roles, all of that, which I know you need to get to. It starts with you. Is there a way to improve, change, or otherwise maximize who you are, what you think, what you're capable of, to then marshal the efforts of others and increase your odds of attacking that system around you more effectively? That's where you should start thinking. If I did not get to your question, apologies, I will get to you next time. And if it's important to you, you should feel free to reach out with a note on LinkedIn. I assume we're connected. If we're not already connections, please reach out. If you've not yet gone to the website, drdoit.com, go. I want you to sign up for the newsletter so I can give you as much helpful pushing, prodding, and advice as possible. I appreciate you being here. Have a great day. I'll see you next time.